Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Break. It's welcome. It's great. It's welcome to have you. I'm having kind of I wouldn't say a do nothing day, but a low energy day, and I figured it'd be nice to relax back with a game that relaxes me quite a bit. I've been playing this game on and off since like 2014, maybe 2012. Had a couple different characters over that time. This is like my most recent one. But you know, I've deleted it like several times, so I'm only rank 3. It's kind of hard to rank up now that the game's so depopulated, but you know, we don't always play the creme de la creme newest games, if you will, on this channel, and so I feel pretty at home playing a MMO from 2012 or whatever. Not really an MMO, but you get my point. Anyway, hey, I'm Ren. I'm a master's student at UWM in English, and I do game stuff, mostly ARGs. You can catch my show, The Ludic Society, on the weekends, where we talk about, you know, unfiction, alternate reality games, things that are pervasive. We could do like VR and AR if we had the setup for it, anyhow. And before we get too involved, I want to quickly read our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that in Milwaukee, we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigami, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin Saber, Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. Now I'm going to kick the audio down a little bit more here. I know the game's going to make the game fairly quiet, but the music's good, but there's not a lot of dialogue in this here game that we are playing today. I'm just going to log into my account. Anybody in chat or who happens to be playing this game and wants to jump in at any point in time, I'm happy to have you on in terms of like co-oping up. I'm not going to turn my voice chat on, but you know, that's all right. So I'm working on, I think last time I played this game, I was working on getting a particular gun. And to do that, I'm going to have to go through the arcade. I could also attempt the Ghosts in the Machine mission, but I don't have full 3-star gear yet, so I probably won't do that. Instead, what I need is more jelly tokens, which are only farmable off of a very particular boss. And let's see if that gate's available for us today. We have to get pretty far down into the depths, too. Yep, here it is, Royal Jelly Palace. So we're going to start on tier 1, just so I can show you the game from start to finish. We're going to play on elite difficulty, I think. And what I'm going to do is I want to join a party that's also doing this, so maybe we can get down to the Royal Jelly Palace with a team, because I can't take it on my own. I've tried, and I will lose. So we will have a team of folks with us, which means let me go ahead and figure out what my settings are to make sure we're not going to like immediately get partied up with a bunch of folks, and then my voice chat's going to be carrying the entire time because I want to talk to you all. Yeah. I can't bump this up any higher. Nah, this is play mode. Oh yeah, don't limit the frame rate. Fucking uncap that and jump the anti-aliasing up. That's fine. That should help things out a little bit. Yes, chat, that's what I want to see. Yeah, I'm not seeing, there it is. We want to disable voice chat, and then we're okay. All right, so let's get started. Hopefully we'll get a decent set of party members with us with some better gear, and we can go kill the King Jelly by the end of this stream. My goal, it should probably take us about an hour to get from depth 1 all the way down to the end of the Jelly King. It might be a little bit easier, actually, since we'll have some other folks with us, and they're probably much better at the game than I am. But yeah, this is just a chill out stream, so we can talk about whatever. I'm not too worried about critiquing the game like we usually do. I'm very much like as much as I enjoyed doing the mega stream this weekend, it definitely was like a really harrowing experience, and I've never streamed for 4.5 hours on my own, you know. And this stream is very much in direct response to that. How far down are we? Oh wow, okay, so we just jumped in with somebody who's depth 1. So we are definitely, we're in the middle of a level, but we are here. So it might be a little bit helpful for me to explain how the game works a little bit. It is pretty simple, but you may find it necessary just to get some orientation. Also, my network connection might be a little slow when people load in and stuff. So let me explain how this game works. So it's very much a basic dungeon crawler with interesting enemies and levels based on depths. I have a sword and a gun and a shield. I can right click to shield. I think hit shift to, with my shield up, I think hit shift to jump faster. Yeah, and that's basically it. We're just gonna collect materials and wander through the dungeon, and that's really all there is to this game. So yeah, that's I mean, there really just ain't much more. It really is just a dungeon crawler in that regard, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for this to be like the most complicated thing today that we've ever played in our entire lives. I also have a little pet behind me that can help me in combat, although I probably won't rely on him terribly much, just out of habit. I don't really find him to be particularly useful all the time. Also, I do not usually play with other folks, so I picked a pet that's really good for solo combat, and that he actually provides me a little bit of like additional. God, oops. I've relearned all my controls too, all my key bindings.
That's absolutely.
Hey, welcome Morgan. Let me when we get between levels, I'll go bump your audio.
Oh my, this is quiet.
You are very quiet compared to the game audio for me. I don't know how you are for chat. How are you? How are you doing? Welcome to the chill stream, where I play this game and don't talk that much about it. I just want to chill out after last week, you know? So this is how I'm doing it. But I mean, you'll probably have a lot of things that we could talk about, because you do MMO stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
It's almost like you had a whole show dedicated to them at one point.
Almost.
But yeah, let me fix your audio before we get into too much, because it might take us like a few minutes to get through. Actually, let me go ahead and just do it now. I think we are in a position where I could tab out and I'd be fine. You're turned all the way up, I think. Can you speak for a sec?
Turning up at my end, I could do that.
You might need to. I need to figure out which cable you're running through. Try now.
I'm talking.
I do not through that input. Oh, try now.
Hello.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's. Maybe I can turn you up in. Yeah, I can bump Discord to 200% audio. That might help. And then I'll bring the game audio down. I think this guy is. If I had to make a guess from those sword swinging sounds, he's noticed I'm AFK. There we go.
Yeah.
That should be a little bit better for the audience, I think. There we go. Sweet. Thanks, dude. Yeah, so we all have to get on these buttons to progress on occasion. So not the best time for me to be AFK.
It's fine.
Such is life. Yeah, so I would describe this game as a dungeon crawler with MMO elements.
Okay.
At any given point in time. Oh, hey, a Halloween themed boss.
Ooh.
At any given point in time, we cannot. Oh, hey. Oh, I see. So we either fight him or he gives us a ton of extra candy tokens, I guess. That's cute.
What do you get for candy token?
I have no idea. I've never played like a Halloween event in this game. It looks like these guys were just here to get candy tokens. So they must give something decent. But that's all right. We can progress through the game without them. We'll be fine. Really, I just need somebody to help me with the King Jelly at the end, because otherwise I'm pretty fucked. My gear's just not strong enough for me to power through that fight. But I am in a public match, so people can, like, the game will auto match people who want to go to the same depths as me. So hopefully we'll pick somebody else up by the time we get to the base.
So what is this game?
It's called
Like a drone
Spiral
ship?
Knights.
Okay.
It's a old MMO, like MMO style game, I guess. It has like MMO hub areas and stuff like that. There's shops. There's a market system for trading stuff. You know, the sort of things you'd expect in a, like WoW or something else. But the main gameplay is not like an overworld that you explore together. It's a arcade style, like depths-based hack and slash, like dungeon crawler. So
it's kind of like if Diablo was an MMO.
yeah, I could say that.
Okay.
It's much less complicated. Many less gear slots, less blessings, and things like that to like manage, but just as many enemy types and things to worry about as far as that goes. So like, you know, yeah, it's also got a nice cute outer shell. It never really caught on. Like, it's always kind of been a cult thing, but there's still people playing the game, you know, 9 years after its release. It's just that most of those people have like bam-fast characters and aren't selling shit on the markets anymore. Which makes progressing kind of difficult because oftentimes the best way to get weapons isn't by doing alchemy or trying to like build them. It's just by buying them off of other people who are done with them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the heat system you see here is like progression on different items. Items get better as you like use them more and plug them with more crystals. So the goal is to like, when you maximize heat on something, when you get it up to 10, then it gets additional benefits, better defenses, better attacks, that sort of stuff. And then from there, you know, you're, then you level up your gear, you get better gear. And then you kind of just, from there, you know, the goal is to get to rank 5 gear and complete the little story they added way post the release if you want to. See all these fire crystals? I need these fire crystals to actually like do it, and the game is trying to prompt me to buy them because of course it is.
Of course it is.
But yeah.
Did it start off as a free-to-play, or did it become, or not free-to-play, like a monetized thing?
As far as I know, it's always had its like microtransaction monetization system.
Okay.
It's pretty uninvasive. I mean, you can certainly play the game without it. It's much easier to play the game without it if you have access to a bunch of people who are selling their gear on the marketplace for free currency. But so in 2012, it was probably very easy to find like the gear that you want on the market. Now, it's a little harder. There are, of course, boss weapons you can unlock by combining certain tokens or bringing certain tokens to the shop, I should say. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I want to get a particular gun called the Antigua that it has like piercing rounds, and it also will replace my stupid auto gun that I can only fire by holding in place. It's not great in a dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
But to do that, I need a bunch of slime tokens, and the only way to get slime tokens is by fighting the slime boss. And the only way to fight the slime boss is to get to, I think, depth 16? Nah, depth 12. That's the one. So you'll notice that also I'm kiting around these little yellow guys. They drop better loot when they all form together into a big guy. So I'm hoping to knock that out that way. I want him to get as big as possible, and I want to fuck him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in a little boss gated area in here. I can't progress until all the guys are dead. So like I said, it's not like a very complex game. It's pretty basic. The grind is basically, if there's one critique to have of Spiral Knights, it's that there's nothing to do but grind. But I mean, I think it's pretty aware of this fact. The depths are called the arcade. So like, it's very aware of what it is.
Oh yeah.
So and I'm okay with that, honestly. Like, part of the whole reason I'm playing this game is because it's not much to think about right now. I mean, there's obviously a lot you can talk about here, but it's not like, you know, at the end of the day, it is just trying to be an arcade dungeon crawler with a like nice aesthetic.
Yeah, and I think that's what it wants to do. That's what it's like. People talk, like watching my friend play Path of Exile. Path of Exile is just grind to grind better, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, the whole point is to make a build and to get the gear and then to unleash that build on the higher levels. So there's definitely a niche for just not necessarily mindless grind, but grind.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, that's kind of the same thing here, right? You build, the goal is to, like, there are different enemies with different types that you'll need different protections for, stuff like that. You've got a bunch of different items you can combine. Note, my sword does normal type damage, but you may notice that after image, whenever I swing, it's specifically faster than other swords and does more consecutive hits. So, you know, there's different speeds, different weapon sizes. The shields vary pretty amazingly. Like I said, there's a lot of enemy types too. Like, we've really only seen the lichens and the things that, but I mean, now we're seeing constructs and these little healer guys. who I'm
Yeah.
desperately trying to take out before I have to deal with the rest of them. So there's like enemy priority to be aware of, stuff like that. Bunches of different elements. The drop, a bunch of stuff in my little taskbar there is just stuff I've found in the dungeon that like I can use to my advantage. There's the little blue thing cures different statuses. The red one heals me. The shield is like a Mega Man shield. Or maybe not a Mega. I think there's like a Mega Man shield. So I think that's the thing that exists in Mega Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a little vial of frozen stuff. So, and these like big rocks I'm taking help you progress your pets and other stuff. So, you know, it's a lot of just like get these resources, get better gear. It's like you were saying, it's grind to grind. And like, I don't know, it is enticing to like want to see all of the depths because these levels are really like, you get used to seeing them over and over again, but until you're used to them, they're really like different and fun. You'll pretty much be in one biome for every like 3 levels abouts.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're in this like plant-based place right now, but later we may end up in like business hell, which is a real place that exists in this particular universe. The story, which is very much an MMO story, is like you crash land on a bizarre other planet. And you have to get to the center of the planet in order to get a crystal with enough power to get your ship back on its way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
standard sci-fi. Like, oh no, our antimatter crystals are depleted. We have to go get more.
Yeah, pretty much. And you are like a robot knight, and you've ended up on a planet that is like, has like a clockwork interior. Which is really cool. It's like aesthetically really brilliant. And it begs some interesting questions if we want to talk about like the depiction of the environment or something like that. But yeah, it's Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Journey to the center of the earth to get the crystals.
To get the crystals.
Oh, it's like I think the new Godzilla movie was kind of like that, except not really. Godzilla versus King Kong. It was like gotta get to the center or go underneath the Antarctic. Which now that I'm thinking about it is very much like Marvel's thing, where there's what is it called, Jurassic Land, or like
You like return to
Neverland or
Monkey,
whatever.
and Monkey is under the Arctic.
Yeah, it's under
Oh
the
my
Arctic.
god, we've returned to Arctic.
What is it? There's something like that in Marvel comics.
I'm sure there is. I have no idea. I'm not
But-
enough of a comics head to know.
It's called Savage Land. Of course, it's called Savage. But yeah, it's just this Jurassic area underneath the Antarctic.
Huh.
Because apparently that's a trope. I don't know.
Guess so. I had no idea. I knew it existed. I didn't realize it was like commonplace enough that, you know, that it was a trope.
It showed up in like multiple places. I didn't either. Yeah, it's kind of. I read a giant Fantastic Four omnibus at some point that one of my professors in undergrad lent me, and it was like this wide-ranging thing. So I got to see everything of the Marvel universe.
Oh wow.
Because they went to Evolution City and they were like traveling underground to find the Mole City. It was.
Oh, so it's like a Fantastic Four omnibus in the way that like it's like stylized within the world of the Fantastic Four, but it's not like, or the specific characters, I guess it's all one Marvel world, but like it's not like an omnibus about the Fantastic Four.
It was omnibus. It was a comic book omnibus. Of Fantastic Four. It was comic books.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And it was like it was a lot. I don't actually know. It was one run, but it was a really long run. And it was like from the 90s. So and Marvel Comics do a great thing where they reference to other Marvel comics. So they're like, oh, they were going through the underground channels of the world, and they passed by a dead Galactus. Like, just, he was just decomposing under the ground.
Just a dead
like,
Galactus?
Yeah, it's just a dead Galactus. And I'm like, what is this? And they, like, have a little asterisk, and it's down at the bottom of the panel that says, if you want to know what this is, look at this issue. Go to this issue over here. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's what Marvel comics, I don't know if they do that necessarily a lot nowadays. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a very common thing in the 90s to be like, go look over here if you want to know what's going on.
I could see them like releasing a set, like a combined feature box of all the Marvel like MCU films on like a Blu-ray disc with like footnotes like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd actually be kind of down for that. I'll be honest, like, cause I think the
like
most
a pop-up video, except for the MCU.
Yeah, you want to know what scene this is? Look at this. There's something like. Oh man, I love. So when you have your shield out, I'll just quickly mention this, and then we can get back to MCU stuff. But like, when you have your shield out, you have multiple moves you can do. So one of them, as you've probably seen me do before, is I'll throw my shield out and then press Shift, and I'll like do a dash. The other one, I can't remember exactly what button it is that you need to press, does a charge attack. So your shield has a couple moves on it, and those can be flavored by what shield you're using. Although mine is not that way. Let me get rid of all these vials so I can pick up this thing. I also have two weapons. I have my gun and I have my sword, and you can swap between them at any point in time. There are also bombs, so there's a third weapon type. But I like, if I was not a solo player, I definitely use bombs. But I am a solo player, so fuck that. Like, bombs have such a long, like, they do amazing damage, but they have such a long startup, you know? That, like, if you're running around solo, I just don't know how you would really get it off. And I don't see a lot of players using bombs in general. But they are technically an option for people if they so desire. So, as far as MCU stuff goes, yeah, I mean, it'd be cool if they did. I think, like, the most interesting part of the MCU is its transmediation. I'm not like particularly happy or interested in any of the plot lines, but like the way that it's constructed is really, really quite fascinating, I think.
Yeah. I think it's one of the stronger points of the MCU is because, like, when Eli went through and watched all the MCU recently, like within the last month,
like went through and did the whole thing. That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
He just sits and watch movies, man. That's what he does.
Fair enough.
So, but he did that, and someone was like, "Oh, is he watching them release order, or is he watching them based on the actual timeline?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I asked Eli, he's like, "I'm just doing it based on release." And I'm like, "Okay, so what's different? What comes where like?" And they're like, "Oh, Captain Marvel goes over here, and then Black Widow's over there because it's technically in the before times because she's dead now." And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And someone was like going off on it, and I'm like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like it's kind of crazy how many things they've thrown together. I can buy weapons and armor from this guy if I want to, so I was just checking to see what he had. All right, we're going to depth 2. We've gotten through the first stage of stuff, and now we're getting into. So they have these little gates in the middle of the clockworks where like, oh, you're 0 star, these 3 levels are for you, anything past them is going to be hard. I'm 3 star right now, well, really 2.8 abouts, so like this is the 1 star area, then we'll go to the 2 star area and I'll do just fine, and then we'll get to the 3 star area, which is where the boss is, and then I will shit bricks. It's good signaling to the player of like, oh, I see, I can go this far before it becomes a problem, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it kind of helps because I feel like sometimes when games don't do that and there's a difficulty curve or like that steep enough difficulty curve, they can just be like, well,
construct
why
time.
can't I do this? It's like I should be able to just
Power
go ahead
through.
and finish this, power through. Why can't I
Yeah.
do that? And it's nice that it telegraphs it at least a little bit. Be like, hey, you can't do this because you're at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Or point
slam
in your
through
level.
these guys because I'm like I'm super over leveled to be doing this particular area in the dungeon. But like, yeah, these guys are gonna like, they're gonna get their shit rocked. This game's visual design really works to its benefit in a lot of places. Like, for instance, you might be able to guess, even without having played the game, what those little gremlins with the red and blue wires do. And
They shock you.
they shock you and they burn you, you know? Like,
Yeah.
they have 2 elemental effects. That's their shtick.
Oh, see, I was thinking like the 2 ends of a magnet are usually depicted as red
I
and
think
blue.
that's
So I'm like, oh, electric.
I think that's the vibe they were going for too, because these are all these enemies are supposed to be like robotic and construct focus. It's very much got like a D&D style classification system. There are fiends and constructs and beasts, and some weapons do better against each different type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those things that kind of... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
It's interesting how much, like, oh, it's like, it's this D&D or that D&D, and I always wonder if the D&D systems are just intuitive enough that they could be, like, recreated without, you know, like, someone recreates them just, like, oh, beasts and constructs, that makes sense, so I'm going to make that classification system without even seeing D&D, like a parallel evolution.
Yeah,
or
instead
if
of like
it
a
is
derivative thing.
Or if it is that they know D&D, so they make classifications based off of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard to know, right? Because this is in the lineage. This game came out in 2012. There are plenty of dungeon crawlers in this format that came out before it.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it's hard to know whether they like, D&D is the inspiration, or if it's, like, you know, just the linear kind of progression from MUDs to, like, Baldur's Gate, you know, and then eventually the classification systems just kind of stick.
And Baldur's Gate was based off of D&D anyway. So
Yeah, it's AD&D, I think. At least that's what Andrew tells me. I've never played Baldur's Gate. I've heard good things.
Baldur's Gate... When did Baldur's Gate come out? Like 90s? Yeah, it would be probably based on AD&D. Or at the very least, like... No, yeah, AD&D, because it came out in, like, late 90s. Yeah.
Nice. So we can keep going, or we can bail out here. I'm gonna just keep rolling, because the one thing that, regardless of how good you are at the game and what level of depths you're at, is amazing, is getting a fuckload more money. And the spoils do get richer as you go, so I would benefit very majorly from continuing to fight. When you're at like 1 star and you're doing this area, it can be like, you know, it can really trash you if you keep going too far. The game's difficulty curve is there, and it makes getting to level 3, like up to 3 stars, really easy. And then after that, like, you are thrown to the wolves as far as progression goes. Like, if you don't have, without the shop, it is genuinely difficult to get gear that is of the correct level. It becomes a lot more of a grind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've tried to get people into this game over the years because I think it's fun to play with other people. God, I'm taking too much damage. I'm gonna pop a heal. I also have one revive per day. I think that's right. 1 or 2 revives per day if I die. So, you know, there's a little bit of permanence there, but the game's pretty forgiving otherwise as far as combat goes. They definitely give you a healthy amount of stuff.
Now when you, like, do your is it 1 free death a day, so you can buy, like, more energy per se?
Yeah, you can absolutely buy more energy, which is exactly, I think, what the thing is called, is energy. You can buy more energy. There are places in the chasm that, like, have energy gates on them that usually are just have, like, a few constructs you can ally with yourself, or, like, sometimes they'll have, damn it, Dragon Mist. Sometimes they'll have that. Sometimes instead they'll have like extra bonus rewards that you could get. You can spend your energy there if you want to. I imagine people who are like have the 5-star gear and stuff just burn their energy there instead of holding on to it as a revive.
Okay.
Yeah, so energy has a couple different uses. Energy is pretty much one of the premium currencies of the game. I think there's one other that like is directly able to be. There's also like not loot boxes, but there are like, well, they are loot boxes, but they're not like randomized. Well, how should I say? They're not graphically randomized. They are RNG loot boxes, and you buy them with keys. So it's very much the TF2 or CSGO style of doing that, where they give you the box for free and then you have to like buy the key to unlock it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how different that is. Like, wonder like psychologically how people feel differently about opening, you know, having the box and being like, tempted to open it versus just buying the boxes.
I feel like it's much easier to ignore because it's not literalized as a barrier, you know? I'm sitting there and thinking like, I don't really want to buy keys, but I've been known to purchase a few loot boxes in my day. Also, I think the graphical element, really, like the slot machine component, is like pretty majorly important to how addictive loot boxes actually are. You know?
True. Yeah.
Like, so the fact that these are not like visually randomized per se, is I think a big component into, you know, their particular. God, yeah, there we go. There's my emergency revive for this run. These guys are just throttling me, which is not great, but we did get through.
Got there in the end.
Yeah.
I like, so you said this game came out like 2011, 2012?
Yeah.
It looks decent. It kind of has this timeless design, and it's kind of cartoony in a way. I don't know. It's kind of it has a nice aesthetic to it.
It doesn't.
Kinda,
it kind of knew its limitations.
Yeah, if it's kind of like an indie team, they're like, well, we're just gonna make it this, which is a good idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who worked on it. I think the group was called Seven Rings. I'm not sure if they're still with Sega. But this is published through Sega, believe it or not. I'm kind of surprised the servers are still maintained. Yeah.
So, I mean, if they've still got players on it, I don't think Sega's kind of a weird, like, publisher in the way that they're like, if people are still playing it, like, well, I guess we'll just hang on to it. But
there we go. I brought an ally down to help with everything.
Yay!
Through a flare, because I think like this level is going to be pretty hard for me. It's honestly not even the level. It's just these like automated knights that are giving me shit. Everything else has been pretty easy for me to just blast through. So I'm just gonna try and like keep them at range and use my gun on them instead of like worrying about trying to get close range. That's one thing I will say. This game has like the guns. A good gun will get you a lot further than a good sword will, but that does not stop me from using the guns, or using the guns way less than the swords. It's game feel, well, you know.
Oh yeah, it's kind of an odd contrast. Like you have sword and shields and then gun. Have this gun. Oh.
Also, I love that the auto gun that I'm using kind of looks like the Nerf blaster. Actually, I think it looks exactly like the fucking Nerf blaster, actually. I want to take these ranged assholes down. I can kite the other ones, and I can deal with the healers. Well, that's just going to be annoying. But it's doable. Let's see if I can just take the healers out here.
I kind of look, the pink little blobs look like something from Phantom Hourglass or Zelda. Like the little slime balls.
Okay, that's one of those guys down. God, he's got some range. I really don't want to die in like depth 1 with the gear I had. That would be a real, like, that'd be a shitty. Problem is, taking out these guys puts me at risk of getting hit by those guys. Let's do shock. That'd be good. Get some free damage off. Roll out. Yeah, I don't know what I'd do without the sidestep, honestly. Like, some of these attacks, I can't block. They'll destroy my shields. These guys hit like a truck. Yeah, these are the, like, berserkers of this game. So, like... Also, it looks like this is the last group of enemies, because the new group of enemies hasn't spawned yet, so... Probably in the clear here, if I can just get through this. That's a hit. That sucks. I am low on health. I do not want to die again, so I'm just gonna have to kite these guys around and use my gun. See what I mean? Like, I could totally have just shot them in the beginning, but I decided I was gonna go in for the sword attacks.
It's like... Swords are cooler. I want to use my sword.
Oh, fucking Christ. Oh, it's rocket pup time. Woohoo! This is gonna suck. Yeah, you do not want to be point blank with these guys. It's like a swing once, get the fuck out of the way kind of situation. They can't heal. Oh, that's good. Yes, I couldn't grab the healing guy. That sucks. Yeah, so I'm done. That's all I can do for this run. That sucks.
Oh,
it's always harder to play on when you're on stream than it is when you're playing on your own. Well, I didn't get anybody to party back up with me, so I'll take that as a warm-up round, just so you know.
Totally warm-up round.
Yeah, at least I can show you the overworld a little bit in the market.
Oh yeah.
It's cute though, and like I said, I would totally like build a new character and start from scratch, and if I had other people to play with in this game. Like, this is a game I would love to start a guild in and go all the way. But, like, nobody fucking plays this game, and I've never introduced it to a friend, and they've been like, yeah, I really want to get in on that, you know? So it's just a MMO I happen to be engaged with. They added a bunch of really cool, like, kind of, you know, I guess you would call them ornaments. Let's see what's in the handgun menu today. Maybe we can buy a copy of the gun I want instead of having to go around looking around for it. Give me Starlot here. Oh, cool, the Super Soaker. That's fun. Dart chain gun, Tundras. Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's like selling the gun I need. This is what I mean. You know, this is all of the armor that's on sale right now. It's 1 and 2 star stuff. The stuff that's really hard to get is like the 5-star gear. You know, like these are good. Like getting a slime crusher, that's a good fucking weapon. But like, and a Nightblade with 1 pip is pretty good too. But yeah, they just don't have anything that like. This would be good. This Sacred Grizzly Pathfinder, but it's also, you know, $300,000 or some shit. So yeah, I mean, so the main area is like this. There's a guild hall over that way. There's a market over that way. You can add ornaments to your weapons and stuff. One of the features I have to say I'm really impressed with this game is if I want to see how a piece of clothing in the market looks on my character, all I have to do is press the preview button, and there it is. It's really that simple.
Well, there you go.
No guesswork. None. And if I preview one thing and I preview another thing, the previews carry over. So I don't even have to guess how things look together. I can just look at them.
Yeah.
It just seems like a quality of life thing that a bunch of fucking MMOs should have. They don't have it at all.
Well, it's like one of those things, or if they don't have like a glamour something or other, you know. It's okay. Sorry, you can hear baby.
No.
He's upsetty. Why are you so upsetty?
I guess I'm gonna create a public party at depth 8 and just try to get to get lower. This will be my last run for the day, and we'll see if we get anything. And if we don't, then that's that.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining, by the way. I know you've been through a lot in the last couple weeks, so it's nice to have you back. It's nice to have a co-pilot.
A co-pilot. Wasn't Hardcell supposed to be your co-pilot?
Hardcell was for a couple weeks there, and then we took a week off because I think I was just too busy and I forgot to like alert people that I was not going to run coffee break that week. And then this week I just, like I said, I really burnt myself out with the weekend stream, and so I was like, I just want to do something fun and relaxing, and so I was planning on this just being solo stream. But I can't very well say no to having you on, or very well, like logistically anybody in Serious Play. But you know, it's nice to have you back. Genuinely, your presence has been missed.
Yeah.
And you know, me and David only got like 1 or 2 episodes ahead in Stockroach, so you may actually understand most of the shit going on this weekend too if you want to come by.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, I did a couple solo streams. One did this weekend. We played I'm Scared, which was pretty fun, and absolutely blew my entire brain out. It was just really unnerving, and you know how it, like 4.5 hours of streaming plus that, it's enough to make me want to take a break.
Oh yeah.
So I've gone to a lower
4.5 hours. Just in general is a lot.
Yeah.
By yourself especially, no.
I wanted to do like a Halloween special, and so my thought on the matter was, let's do, I was gonna do an hour and a half of I'm Scared and an hour and a half of the map pack experience that we found when we were looking through r/ARGs. And I had gotten requests to do both from various, and recommendations to do both from various sources. So what I'll say is that the map pack thing turned out to not be a game, which is totally fine. I mean, sometimes these things aren't games. And the other game, yeah, it just ends up being kind of a transmedia story, and without the like game component and the emergentness doesn't happen, and because the emergentness doesn't happen, it's not technically an ARG. You know? Also, it's not a game, so it's not an ARG, so, you know. But if I had to, like, target exactly why, it's because it doesn't need any audience interaction. It's just been kind of progressing. Yeah. Which begs the question as to whether auto-scrollers are, auto-scrolling Mario levels that don't require you to do anything are games.
That is the question. Well, it is packaged within a game.
Yes, it is packaged within a game.
So if someone goes, Well, I mean, it's hard to separate out this part of the game is not a game, but the rest of it is a game.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
It's kind of hard to parse. I agree. God, this is a little bit obnoxious. So one of the things you pick up on the earlier floors that I don't have are cells that increase how much resistance and health you have. So the one problem with starting at low depth is you are much more likely to blow your... Yeah, here's a cell. Okay, cool. See my health meter just shot up? Yeah, that's what I needed to, like... I'm liable to take an early death if I get in a bad spot before I find specifically one of those. Yeah, there it is. That sucks. Damn. Well, that's all right.
What?
I guess I'll just try it again.
When you die, what happens? Do you lose your stuff? Does your stuff degrade, or?
I lose my stuff back to the last, like, checkpoint that we went to. So at the beginning of each level, you basically get checkpointed, you get your stuff, and then you move on. So I lost access to... I lost everything there, but I wasn't exactly very far in. I'm going to turn the difficulty down and just try again. This is like... It's not like a big deal that I'm dying. It sucks, but it's not like you know, it's not like world ending or anything. My gear never degrades in this game. You can make as many builds as you want. I am gonna turn just the heat. I'm gonna turn the difficulty down to normal. I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference, but it might make a big difference. I like playing on higher difficulty because I get more stuff.
Yeah, I would probably just play on like. This is not a game for me because I don't like the pounding your head against something.
Oh yeah,
sort of mentality. But when people complain about story mode, like oh, games that have really easy modes so you can just do the story, I'm 100% down for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just want to play the story. I don't want to die a bunch. Like, Dark Souls has really cool lore that I'd love to learn, but I don't want to play Dark Souls.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, well, it's like, you know, it really, the best experience the player is going to have is probably going to be the experience, as far as difficulty goes, that the player wants to have. It's kind of how that's definitely been my experience with, like, escape room stuff. And I think that's like a pretty good, like, running an escape room is a good way to learn how to do difficulty. If the player doesn't want to struggle with something, the player's not going to have a good time struggling. And some players really want to struggle. Some players really don't. Like, really aggressively are resistant to it and will, every 5 seconds in an escape room, ask for help. They'll be like, oh, we're so lost, you know? And, like, there's very little merit in letting people sit there forever and just be lost. At least in my mind. And I think the like difficulty debate is often like assumes that there's like some sort of thing to be gained in playing games that are more difficult, and there certainly is one thing to be gained, and that is getting better at difficult games. But everything else, like there really isn't anything else to say. People determine the level they want to play at, and if they like. What may cause an intense fight for one player isn't what's going to cause an intense fight for another. So even that kind of tension isn't easily determinable. Oh fuck! I reversed the spikes and got myself fucked. I think what changes on difficulty actually, if I'm like, because I haven't really thought about it that much in this game, it looks like it's how much damage you take. Oh crap! One of my panels just fell off the wall. Hold on.
No.
Sorry, that happens every once in a while. The wall isn't perfectly flat. Sometimes they get too loose and drop. I'll have to fix that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it might be health in this game, but like, you know, you lay out maybe the amount of enemies that spawn. I'm not sure. We'll see if that changes later. I don't think it does. This is still like a good amount of enemies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I think like easy story modes in games are like pretty much like I'm kind of surprised that more of them don't exist, because I don't think it's a complicated concept to like figure out. Like, if I can spend less of it than a year working in an escape room and come to the conclusion that difficulty is best determined by the player and not the designer, then I feel like it's not like a hard concept to grasp. You know?
And I think I'm kind of surrounded because, like, in my FC, a lot of people raid, and so a lot of people talk about like, oh, everyone should want to raid. We have a casual raid group to get quote unquote the new raiders into savage raiding.
Sure.
And the people who are typical raiders are like, oh, you guys gotta get the best in gear, like, oh, we gotta do this, and you gotta watch the video, etc., etc. And me and the other person who are like the quote-unquote new savage raiders, we're just like, we just kind of want to hang out and have a good time. Like, we don't really care about these fights or getting gear. We just want to like chill and hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
I guess we're doing that while raiding, but like, like I just want to like hang out, man.
The point is the social time spent.
Yeah. But like for me, I just kind of I'm a casual person. I like challenge. Like if there's puzzles or like boss fights to kind of learn, that's cool. But I also don't want to like die more than like 4 times.
Sure.
Because by that point, I get really frustrated. It's like I just don't want to play this game anymore because I'm just beating my head against this wall, and I just don't. Pixel perfect sort of finishes aren't my thing, you know?
Yeah, and I'd say the thing with this game isn't necessarily like being pixel perfect. It'd be kind of hard given the latency and the net code. The game definitely doesn't expect that of you, but it does expect that you like have good enough gear that what you're fighting is doable. And that's like here I'm doing fine. I kind of got fucked on that last level just because I ran into a bunch of like an enemy gate without getting a capsule, but I haven't run into an enemy gate here yet, so I'm doing kind of okay. I can still backtrack if I need to protect myself. You also kind of need to know the enemy types because they have different moves and attacks and damages, but it's easy to pick that up as you fight them because any given enemy only has about 2 moves, except for bosses. So, but yeah, the real challenge is like that, the grinding of getting the stuff you need to make the gear that you need to have, which is like crafting is a big part of a lot of MMOs. I think they went maybe a little too hard on it here. I wish I could just buy the shit I need. But the boss tokens really wouldn't be that bad, except you need like 15 of them to get an item, which means you have to do the boss like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Which again,
we want that replayability. Dang it.
Yeah, they really want that engagement. I think, like, honestly though, this is probably the folly of this game in general, is that they really probably could have just had all of the engagement they wanted without having to like do that sort of stuff, because of the nature of the game, you know. And maybe in 2012 that was kind of a bold thing to say, but in a post like Binding of Isaac and like, you know, Enter the Gungeon and all of these roguelikes that have done like mad numbers, Hades, you know, games that really, they do change procedurally like this one does, but otherwise are pretty much the same experience. People will just crawl dungeons over and over again, you know?
Yeah. See if you can get the best time, speed running, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think like they could have given this game's mechanics and shop a little bit more love, and they would have absolutely just had. And I mean, hey, they even with the product they did create, they have a player base that's been coming back for 9 years. So clearly, some people see something in it.
Clearly.
Like I said, for me, it's just like I can zone out and play this game kind of thing. The music's good, the aesthetics are nice, as you pointed out. It's aged well. Even if I'm not getting the gear I want, I can still come back to this game and put 10 hours in and feel pretty all right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Dust Force, except Dust Force is obnoxiously difficult. Dust Force somehow manages not to irritate me, though. I really don't know why. I think if anything, it has almost entirely to do with the soundtrack. But, you know. But yeah, I mean, I completely understand, like, being like, I don't want to bang my head against the wall or anything, right? And to that end, not banging your head against the wall in this game is having a party, right? The one thing I will say is the depths, even on extreme difficulty, there's not a lot that is challenging with a party of 3 people. Some of the stuff gets hard, but like part of the reason I'm getting bodied in places is because I don't have anybody I'm playing with, you know?
Yeah, well, because I imagine a lot of the enemy AI is, you know, they're going towards player, and you're the only player, so you're getting mobbed by a bunch of characters.
Yep.
Or mobbed by a bunch of creatures, when that should be, you know, spread out.
Yes, that's absolutely part of it. Like here, I'm getting shot at, so I've got to have my shield up, but I'm also getting rushed down by these guys, so I have to, like, toggle between my shield at the correct time and also manage this. And like I said, this game has not the best netcode in the world, so I have to be very careful not to get my ass absolutely ripped by these guys. Also, I think these guys just spawn infinitely, so I'm just getting, like, attacked from off screen here as well, which is not the best. But yeah, so like, yeah, I think that's absolutely part of it too, is the way that the difficulty is set up is harder for solo players to manage just because there are less bodies in the room. But also, like, there's just gear that's not usable for me. Like I said, bombs are great for like crushing bosses. Bombs are amazing, but it'd be really hard for me to bring a bomb into a fight in this game as a solo player.
Well, would your bomb replace would replace a weapon, I would presume?
Yes, it fills one of the weapon slots. So now the only thing, it would fill my gun slot, which would mean I'd have to rely on in-dungeon found objects to be my ranged, if I need to like press a button or something like that that's away from me. And it also would mean that I, you know, don't have a range attack to kite people around, or it would replace my sword, in which case if anybody closes distance with me, I'm well and fucked. I have to, at that point, I have to rely on my shield, or I'm just not gonna get anywhere. And like that's survivable, but it kind of sucks. The heavy weapons, the claymores and heavy hatchet and stuff like that, they're awesome. They do fuckloads of damage, but the wind up on them is insane. There's also a bunch of elemental weapons, which is great as long as somebody else in your party is carrying other elements in case the enemies that you're fighting have resistance, right? Like all these guys have resistance to, I think, frost. So if I had a sword, like a frost sword, I'd just be absolutely fucked, you know? And sure, yeah, I have my secondary, but like, what if they're immune to both? And sometimes they are.
Yeah, I feel like in that regards, if they wanted to do something to this game, I don't believe this game's ever gonna get a major patch update. But to make it more feasible, like as your community is shrinking and as, you know, solo play is becoming more prevalent, to keep them in the game, they could have implemented a like backup weapon system. So if you are going through games, you have like, oh, you have one or two backup weapons. One of them could be a bomb, I guess. Well, like one of them could be a different elemental sword. So you don't get fucked on runs with strategy, you know?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Like, so I can swap weapons between levels, but that's not like sometimes I don't know. I can guess what kind of enemies I'm gonna fight in an area, because I know the areas well enough at this point that that's like feasible for me. But like, it's still just a guess. I might be totally wrong, you know?
Yeah.
The bosses are a known entity though, so I could have like boss kits, but again, like I said, it's really hard. The game is designed to have retention by the grind, so like grinding gear is the main way you progress. So getting a whole like boss crusher set, that's pretty fucking hard, especially when every boss is notably different, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like one of them, they actually did a really good job with the enemy variety in this game. The boss for one of the factories is 2 giant gun turrets. The boss that I'm going to fight is a giant slime. There's a wolf boss that is really cool. It's the first boss you fight in the game, and it's absolutely awesome. It like stalks you through the forest. It's absolutely adorable, and it's a crime there isn't more fan art of it. And one of the top tier like wolf pelt armors is based on its design, so it's awesome. Another thing I wish I could do is build all of the boss armor for one of these things, because it's awesome. But like, unless you have people who you're playing with dedicatedly to get that stuff, there's no way, you know. It takes all my effort to just get a gun that's from a boss thing. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it would be to get other stuff. But again, like, you know, if you have friends who like dungeon crawlers, oh, nice glitch. Look at that. That's funny. I don't know how that happened. But The like the game is dynamic enough, and there's enough shit here that like it's in some ways not surprising at all that people would like this dungeon crawler enough to get invested in it and spend a lot of time in it after 9 years. Also, oh, here's this guy. So you know how in Dark Souls you get invaded?
Yeah.
This guy is like essentially an invader, but the difference is you kill him, and then every once in a while he just shows back up. So you're never really fully safe from him. And he can just appear at random times during this particular level. So the game even has like mini bosses and shit. Like they really went all out in terms of like trying to make these little environments really memorable for the player, you know? Oh, this is the level with the big ghost that chases you. Oh, this is the level with the guy who comes out and faces you like that. This is the one where I'm fighting a bunch of zombies, but they come up from the graves instead of like just spawning like normal, you know?
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of good shit there.
Yeah, and it's really cool. You have a viewer in chat, 13.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hello.
He says it. He's saying, how new are you to the game?
How new am I to the game? I've been playing on and off since I think 2014, but I've deleted my account several times when other people have said that they want to play, and then remade a new account when they decide not to play. So not new at all, but new in terms of the fact that I don't have like 5-star gear. I'm between 2 and 3-star gear right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you delete your accounts? You just...
Oh, there are more people in chat. Hello. This is awesome. People, I guess the people who play this game still watch Twitch streams of this game every once in a while. It's really cool to see when a community is still like there's I feel like this game really hit cult status. Like I feel like I don't know how many people are actually online, but like it's definitely like only a few people like played it and have stuck with it for long enough. But those people are really happy with like the way that it's kind of turned out. Oh great, here comes the big boy. I don't know where this goes.
Yeah, Turdy says that he's played since 2011, April 2011, so this game is really nostalgic.
Yeah, I feel that. I remember, like, I think I got through a lot of, like, high school moments playing this game, actually. I was just, like, really bored, and I'd throw it on, and it is actually kind of occupies a similar state in my mind as to where, like, Sonic the Hedgehog does. Like, I mean, the Sega Genesis game. But just for a different moment in my life. Look at this dog pile of zombies.
I'm trying to think what would be nostalgic for me, like, I don't know. What did I play in high school? I would just say Halo.
Yes, hello, big boy. I'm just gonna take you back to death. Go away.
Yeah.
I've had an account and got deleted, and then I got a new one. 14, 15 years old. The game development is pretty much dead. Yeah, I figured Greyhaven, I figured they weren't making new stuff. I was actually kind of surprised that the events are still circulating. Like, I had no idea that they were, like, I mean, maybe they're on an automatic timer, but, like the Halloween event is live right now, and I definitely expected to log in and there to be no event, you know? Or no more events at all.
It makes sense. I think, like, TF2 is kind of in a similar spot where they're not doing anything with the game, but they just have the events set to automatically go.
That figures. Honestly, like, it's time for TF3. I know Valve is not, like, interested in game development often, and there's very little chance that we'll actually see something like TF3. But it's time for TF3, you know?
They're just gonna keep CSGO forever.
God, it's also time for a new CSGO game. Like, it's just, like, the Source engine is back to where it was when, like, you know, what was it before what was this engine called? Was it just also called Source before they revitalized it?
I think it was just called Source.
Yeah, maybe it was just called. I can't remember what this version of Source is called either. My brain is just slow, but like, yeah.
Yeah. The events are cycling, but whenever they add to the game, it's just skins. Yeah, they probably are just making residual income. They're just like, well, we're not going to continue developing the game, but we'll just kind of reskin stuff and do it that way. I can imagine that it's a cost-effective way of keeping the game running, maybe? But also still kind of sucks to see a game just kind of get stuck in stasis mode.
Honestly, I don't feel like the game has changed that much since I was playing it back in God knows how long. I'm sure they've done some rebalancing, but like I'm not really sure. And I think like the power-ups weren't there the first time. Like enemies didn't used to drop like little boosters for your damage and speed and stuff. Maybe they always did and I'm forgetting. But I don't think there's been like a lot of major gameplay changes since the beginning, to be totally honest. Oh, and the missions, the actually story mode wasn't added originally. I remember playing back when there was no story mode or missions, and you just went to the arcade, and that was that. Stop completely because my friends list is completely offline. Yeah, I totally get that. That's the reason I keep picking this up and putting it down. I was talking to Morgan about that. It's just like I'll show this game to friends, and I'll be like, hey, here's a dead MMO we can play together. It's a dungeon crawler. It's really well designed. And then people will be like, no thanks. Yeah, which I don't blame them for. I start the sentence with dead MMO.
Yeah. And it's also kind of like having a guild and things. Like going back to Lord of the Rings Online for me, it's like I remember when there was people online in my kinship, which is guild. It's like I remember playing this with like my brother and then his friends and all that kind of stuff. So just kind of like dead MMOs. It really points out the social aspect of MMOs is. And when you go back and you're just like, oh, this is kind of a lonely game.
Yeah.
And I think the way that, like, you're talking about the markets not being populated, it's like...
Honestly,
it sucks. Because you're just like, it's designed, you know it's designed, and you just kind of have these ghost designs. Because no one's playing it, or there's a very small community playing it. And so you just get left with these designs that are meant for community, but because there's no one to populate them, it's just kind of like a shell of its former self.
Oh, thanks for following.
Intended self.
Thanks for following. Is it Turdy? I guess it's Turdy. I love it. Turdy. Yeah, I totally like. Honestly, I could see a release of this game that's not invested in the social component. You know, like I don't think it'd be that hard to. Well, okay, it wouldn't be conceptually difficult. It would be from a programming standpoint, I think, a pretty big project, and a design standpoint. But like conceptually, it's not hard to see this game adapted into like a single player environment. Like I said, it's pretty playable solo without, you know, the only hang up is the progression system, which is of course tethered to the marketplace because of course it is. It's a 2012 era MMO. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but it is interesting. Like even a game that has kind of, you know, a 4-man co-op system, or it has a couple PvP modes that were really cool. It had like a Bomberman style game, which was neat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. I actually really liked the Bomberman PvP stuff. It was pretty fun. But like, you know, outside of those components, I mean, the main game is still like you could never interact with anybody if you really didn't want to, I guess. Which I feel like is not true of every MMO. And even still, it languishes without a community, you know?
Yeah.
Like the social force of the genre and the way it's developed, even in like a minimal aspect, is still strong enough that like it fucking sucks not to have other people online. I think like, I suspect Destiny 2 is going to be in the same place at some point, you know, or Destiny, where it's like, yeah, you could play the game on your own, I guess, but like it really is languishing without friends, even without the marketplace, you know? Because like, what do? Run through big open worlds without running into anybody else on your little Sparrow and like do raids solo? I mean, you can't really raid. I guess you can raid solo, but like, I mean, that's not even really true. I think you can do raids with like a fire team of 3 minimum. Oh, this is where I need that fucking key for. Of course. That key I got at the beginning of the level.
That you were just taking around?
Yeah, that was just, I just decided I didn't need it anymore, so I didn't keep it. I guess I have to go back and get it now. I see another post in the chat. One of the things I remember about the game was when you had energy. Oh, I walked into the spine because I wasn't paying any attention. And you used energy to play missions. You just had to wait on the main city to get your energy back to farm or go offline and come back to the grind. Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't think about it, but I guess that is how you used to. Because now I don't think I've been accumulating energy from being offline. I think I still don't have any energy right now. So I guess they must have changed that. Which suggests, I guess, that the monetization... Didn't you also have to, like, originally have energy to actually go into the arcade? And so you could only do a certain number of runs per day or something without buying more energy? I think that was the way for a while. Maybe I'm misremembering. This... Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like the passive energy regen. That's awesome. I just wish that, like, I wish that I like the arcade better now that we don't have to spend energy to go into it. Especially since it's the main thrust of the game, you know? But there was something really kind of revolutionary about an MMO that says, like, don't spend your entire day playing me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I know that's not how that's intended to be read. Like, it was intended to be like oh, cool, you can farm energy on the arcade? I don't remember that. That's cool. I had no idea. Yeah, so there is something really nice about, like, I mean, the time-gated stuff in that perspective, but time-gated stuff is so often designed just for you to spend more money on it instead of time, you know? Or more money so you can spend more time, and that's not interesting, you know? Yeah. It's one of those context things. Oh, look, armored goblins. I don't remember these guys. Oh, they have snowballs. That's fun. Oh, they're not armored. They just have, like, they have earmuffs and a little scarf. That's cute. Look at that. Frosty. Yeah. Eh. Explosion. I really want to, like, one of these, I think, like, it would be genuinely still very satisfying for me one day to, like, go back and play this game concertedly. You feel almost like, you know what I mean? Like getting a group of people together and just being like, look, as long as the servers are still alive, let's start at like level 0 and actually grind our way up to rank 5 gear and like really do this shit. But
yeah, I feel like it'd be fun, but it'd be hard to get someone to do a time investment of it unless they enjoy the game enough, you know? Because it's like, I don't know, grinding in, let's say, I don't know, Warframe. It's like you have this idea of what is coveted in a way, because there's that community aspect of oh
that's a good point. Yeah, there's like I mean there's still like wikis with the particular gear on it, but like yeah, I mean the meta components of the game, like what is the best weapon to get, what's the best armors, those sorts of things are all just like detritus on the web now, you know? It's stuff like you can look up posts from years and years ago of people talking about that, you know? Yeah, none of it's current.
Yeah. And that's what was a problem with MMOs is when you're like, what is the good, like looking at Final Fantasy, you're just like, I want to do X, I want to do Y, and you're doing old content, so you're just looking at like ancient things.
Yeah.
In a game in like 2016, and I'm like, I feel weird doing that.
It's its own like there is like a cool book idea in like a book about dead MMOs just called Where Good Games Go to Die. Which is a banger title, and somebody can totally like steal that from me right now if they want. I'm not gonna no if you want to take Where Good Games Go to Die would be fun. But like just a book about like different MMOs as case studies and like the detritus that they leave behind. Cause like
come in.
Oh yeah. Nice meeting you, and thanks for coming around and taking some time and watching it. And if you we do a lot of variety stuff on this channel, so I don't know if I'll play this game again, but like I might. Who knows? Maybe weekly dead MMO feature.
Weekly dead MMO feature. Eventually play Lord of the Rings. Oh god, Lord of the Rings Online.
No, but really though, I mean, like imagine a book project that's about like the transmediation that occurs from the like emergence of an MMO. You know, like the player created content that sits on the web and exists in like people's DeviantArts and wikis and whatever else until some new player happens upon it 10 years later and is like, oh wow, this used to be a community. You know, the ghost town.
Yeah.
I don't think I've read a lot about that.
Like watching, there's a series on YouTube by a YouTuber, Josh Strife Hayes, and he looks at the quote-unquote worst MMOs, and one of his major blind spots that people have pointed out is he looks at games as they currently are. So he'll be like, this game sucks, and its monetization scheme is garbage, it's really dated, and he acknowledges like this game came out in 2011, and right now it's kind of it's in a sorry state. He talks about the current state, and you look at the comments, and someone goes, "Oh man, I remember this game when it came out, and it was fantastic for like the first 6 years. I had so much fun in it.
Yeah.
There was such a big community, etc., etc." And then they point to like a point in time where like maybe it went free to play. A lot of times it's when it went free to play, or it got shifted publishers. One of the ones big for MMOs is like Game Ego, and then there's another one that when they get a project, they kind of just eat it alive because they're just monetize it until it's dead, pretty much.
Yeah, monetize it until it's not playable. Like, just try to milk the community that exists for as much as they can, and then move on to the next project. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
a lot,
EA,
like a lot of people.
It's Unichronic Arts, as Jim Sterling used to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just kind of like it's really interesting to see people go like, "Oh, I remember when this game was great, and it did this and it did that." And some of the games like actively take content out.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know why you like, oh, I don't know what they did to this game, but it used to have a lot of content and now it's just not there. They don't even like make it a pay for it content. They just take it out for some reason. And you're like, why? It was there. Why did you purposely ruin it, for example, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he doesn't really point that out. And so like he did a Lord of the Rings episode, but I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. I'm not gonna watch you play Lord of the Rings online because I have really good memories of it. And it's not in a good state right now. Because it's just...
Well, it's dead. Like, it's a lot like exhuming a corpse and being like, wow, this person must have been ugly. You know?
Yeah.
like that is the...
And they have released, like, when did Mordor come out? I think they released the Mordor thing for Lord of the Rings Online, like, a year and a half ago?
Sure.
Like, they have, like, somewhat recent content, but also there's just no good player base, and since it's free to play, there's a bunch of monetization schemes and stuff, and it's just like it's really conflicting to look at games, especially MMOs, because they're no longer static beings, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're vital media. You know, they're media with a pulse. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of watch it as it slowly gets transformed and changed and maneuvered, manipulated into something that is not what it originally started off as. And that's why like WoW Classic does really well, because people want to go back to what it originally was.
Right.
And then
well, and RuneScape, right? RuneScape has also had that kind of vibe for a while. But I mean, I think the big thing, and this is what I mean, like they may also increase the drop rate for health and stuff in easy mode. You'll notice I'm doing just fine here now that we've kind of I've had a bit of good luck and also some stuff. But back to the conversation, I wanted to point that out because I talked about it earlier. Yeah, I mean it's well, I think like that's part of the reason, like when we're building ARGs, right? One of the things I tell designers that I work with on the very few occasions I've consulted is you need to make sure your core media object is really, really compelling, because that's when it comes to like, one, most of your engagement, and two, when it comes to like, you know, the archive of your game, that's what matters, is that core media component. It's why Marble Hornets is still rewatchable and enjoyed and talked about as a found footage film after its game elements kind of ran their course. You know? Yeah. It's why something like Jaduzable's creepypastas and videos are still watched. And you know, there's a bunch of other stuff like Alex Bale's Pizza Time Pizza ARG still has like components that are watchable. The game may be dead and the community might not be like living anymore, but the artifacts that do exist tell the story in a concise and effective way. MMOs, the story of an MMO, I mean, sure, it's embedded in the game, but that immediately creates some stopgaps because now like you have to play. You can't exist in it passively in a way you can with an ARG or something like that. But the other thing that like really I think gives it a problem is so much of the MMO is filled in by the player in a way that's like not obvious from the base material. But then when it's over, like somehow it becomes really obvious that like this was a lived-in space in a way that like a lot of other, I think even ARGs don't really have that same kind of like, oh, I've walked into a graveyard feel when they're done, you know?
Yeah, like, it's really weird, like, going through MMOs because they're designed to be social. Yeah. And you look at a space, you look at, I keep going back to Lord of the Rings Online, but you, like, go to, like, World of Warcraft, or maybe World of Warcraft will die, who knows? Um,
Well, with the Blizzard stuff, who knows, really?
Yeah, with
you
the
know?
Blizzard
Like,
stuff,
they may
yeah.
really
But like,
have killed it.
oh yeah. But like, you go to a dead MMO and you're standing in the middle of a marketplace and there's an auction hall and there's, you know, mailbox and there's a market board and you're looking and you're staring at it like, there's supposed to be people AFKing here.
Yeah.
Like, it was built for AFKing, like to stand next to the marketplace or to craft or to do that kind of stuff. And just, it's designed like that. And so to see it empty, even if the game isn't dead, like if there's players but they're just not at that space, it just feels like a graveyard, like you said.
Yeah, it becomes like a Bandonia, which is its own. Yeah, I mean, dude, honest to God, if you ever want to write that book, like, that seems like a really fun project. I'd be super down to like, or even just a paper on, you know, on these kinds of like the vitalness of an MMO and its sociality becoming this like. I think the thing that's really interesting to me, like I said, is like it's not like in the game itself, sure that happens, but then like the process of playing it becomes this like exhumation of the body of the particular MMO, you know? You're digging into the lost city and the result is there's just so much shit about how people used to behave here that like maybe you don't even know if you could play the game with that information anymore, you know? And
yeah,
it's like,
and
oh
like,
man.
It's like outdated wikis.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Like,
God, yeah.
Like you're like, or like trying to figure out or like seeing, because like in Final Fantasy, they've changed up the classes so much that even like 2 or 3 years ago when it was like the Stormblood expansion versus the Shadowbringers expansion, like you go back to videos from that time and you're like, this game looks completely different than the game that I know in the current day. So even like Stormblood Final Fantasy content is its own dead content in and of itself.
Well, yeah, and like
it's just not relevant anymore, but it still exists on the internet.
Well, sure, and Destiny 2 is kind of in a similar place where they've scrapped the original campaign. You know, there's a new campaign where you come in and now you play through a different story. And so I think like there's still information about that old story on there, but they've also taken out large amounts of content from the game because the game was getting too big for them to manage. I don't really know how it like makes sense that that's the case.
I call a little bullshit on that, or it's like at that point just make a new game.
Oh yeah, I mean at that point, yeah, make Destiny 3, but they don't want to lose their player base or run the risk of
yeah.
I think what they're scared of is every time a Destiny game is launched, it's gotten a lot of bad press on its initial release because the game sucks when it starts. They've never made a good Destiny game that came out of the box good.
Yeah.
So I think they're worried about fucking that up. But
it is really sad because it's kind of funny. My brother-in-law has been playing it and has gotten my husband into it.
yeah.
And he's been enjoying playing it, and it's funny because my brother-in-law's like, "Oh, there's so much lore," and I'm saying that, and I know that Destiny never was really hep on actually writing the lore into the game.
No, well, that's Bungie's
really
whole
bad
thing.
at that.
They hate doing that.
But can you imagine, like all the lore videos that exist currently, like? How much of that does Bungie assume that people will find and look at? Because all the deleted content is lore, and it's still there on the internet.
Oh yeah.
So does Bungie rely on that stuff to still exist? So when they make new content for Destiny 2, do they say, oh, well, we have to do what's based in the game? Or can we just assume that someone's going to go look at it? Go look at things online?
They've always been bad.
You know?
Yeah, even Halo, like Halo 1 was especially bad at that. You know, there was a lot of like information going on in Halo that you were not getting out of the main game.
That's why I liked it. I think that's why it came off so organically for the first game. Because it was like, you're just kind of thrust into this world, and you now have to go kill a bunch of aliens. And over time, you learn about these things, and like Halo 2 is when the Forerunners get brought up, I think.
Yeah, Halo 2 was much better about it than Halo 1 was.
Yeah. Well, Halo 1 was definitely like, here's these things, but also you can kind of learn as you play, like the different colors of Covenant are different ranks. So you're like, oh well, I know that these white guys are terrifying, but these blue guys are really easy to kill.
Yeah.
And so you kind of start to build up an embodied understanding of the hierarchy of the Covenant just by playing.
Well, yeah, and that
But
stuff
also it's not really
is the
intended,
strength of the
so.
game, right? Like that's not what I'm talking about when I critique Halo's storytelling and Bungie's style of storytelling. It's not. Bungie has always been really good at providing you the information you need to kill the proper thing in the correct order. Like their enemy, enemy design in Halo is one of Halo's like greatest strengths. It has fantastic enemy design. The only thing I would critique it for is maybe not having enough variety. But like part of the reason that it's setting up things the way it is because it is you know, it's a series of civilizations with particular integrated alien life forms. Like from everything about it from a military hierarchy standpoint makes, you know, enough sense to the player that it's there, even if mechanically it would be nice to be fighting a few more different looking aliens every once in a while, you know, across however many games. But
that's why they added the brutes, and then everyone hated them.
I love the brutes. They're great. Fuck the brutes. I know people didn't like the brutes, but I like the brutes.
I like the brutes in concept. I don't like the weapons.
Ah, I see. Fair enough.
And so, like, because weapons and vehicles are so intrinsically tied to the identity of the aliens, I don't like your weapons. That means I don't like you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The brute shot is like feels like it's less powerful than it should be. Is my experience with it.
Brute shot, and then there's the weird other stuff that they introduced in Halo 3. Anyway, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going about lore talking in Halo.
Yeah, so I mean, well, my thing with Halo's lore is often that it like, how should I say? It's not that the game doesn't tell you what you need to know. It's that everything else is left up to like up in the air, you know. It really doesn't like, it doesn't go any further than that. And like I always wanted to know a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say that. What I found out was that after I played Halo 1 on the hardest difficulty, that there was actually a ton of other information about things that are happening in the game and in the world that wasn't even put into like codex in the game, right? This was stuff you had to go to a companion website to get. And yeah. I was not thrilled to hear that. Like that felt like like I was like, oh, so you wanted me to have a chance to learn all of this information, but it's not in the game? If it's important, shouldn't it be in the game? Which is maybe like is weird to hear from somebody who studies ARGs, but it is how I felt at the time playing that particular experience. And I think it's part of Halo's age. I think like I would suspect that if Halo was made in 2021 as a fresh product, it would have like, you know, some sort of codex or something like that. And I think the later games actually do have something like that in them. Although I'm not sure if it was Bungie who added that or 343.
I think Halo 3 probably has something that talks about like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe Reach.
Well, yeah, and Reach felt
I
good.
never played it. I never played any of the 343 Halo game.
I don't blame you for that though.
I'm an elitist.
Reach
I
is
know.
good.
I played a. Reach is good. Well, all of the. Oh, Reach is good. I mean, I have ODST. I never actually played it.
I
but
love
I've heard
ODST.
that it's pretty good.
Yeah.
ODST has the best soundtrack. I will say that.
ODST tells a concise story in a way that like none of the other Halo. It's the Majora's Mask of Halo.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it.
It's such a weird, like. Well, I kind of had a bone to pick with it because it was set in Halo 3. It was called Halo 3 ODST, but it was set in the Halo 2 story.
Oh, really?
I believe canonically it was set in Halo 2.
That is a little bit weird, but I think they also packaged it as part of like the complete edition of Halo 3. So, like, I remember you bought the games together.
Oh, I didn't do that. They might have sold them as a pair, but like ODST came out in 2009. Halo 3 came out in 2007.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I think they must have sold them retroactively as a pair then.
Yeah, because I remember I bought Halo 3 when it came out, and then Halo ODST came out and I never bought it. Yeah, this game
so I mean, why not call it Halo 2 ODST then? I guess because
because Halo 3 was the most current.
Yeah.
And also Halo 2 was from the previous generation.
Right.
And the amount of times that I had friends who had 360s but not Xbox originals, so whenever we were playing the campaign of Halo 3 and I was like, oh, this is so cool, like do you remember in Halo 2 when this happened? And they're like, oh, I've never played Halo 2. And then we went back and played Halo 2. I played Halo 2 campaign through with people who had never played Halo 2, like, 4 times, I think.
Nice.
Because I was like, no, you have not played Halo 2. We're not going to continue playing Halo 3 together until we play Halo 2.
Yeah, you can play Halo 2 without playing Halo 1, I think, and you'd be pretty well. Like, the only thing that would be confusing is maybe learning that the Flood exists for the first time. But, like, Halo 2 and Halo 3 are pretty fucking intertwined. It'd be pretty hard to, like, enjoy Halo 3's story for everything it offers without Halo 2. I would also say to the Halo 2 thing, that game, like, the SMG in that game is busted. And I just want that to be said on stream somewhere, that somebody said Halo 2's like version of the SMG is disgusting.
Is the SMG the one that you could dual wield?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of the dual wieldable ones, but it's specifically the human dual wieldable SMG. Yeah. That thing melts enemies. That thing is like the fucking shotgun from Halo 1. It is all you need.
You also have to keep pulling it down.
Yeah, I mean, you'll burn through bullets, but, like, I mean, fuck, that's really not much of a problem in that game. I mean, you find enough fucking bullets.
Oh yeah. Well, I like in Halo 2 is dual wielding needlers.
Fair.
It's the only game in the trilogy that you can do that.
Well, yeah, for good reason.
Because they realized how broken it was.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, it was totally broken. You could explode people. It was great.
Yeah, and to the whole thing with I think we're not ready to introduce. Like, I think somebody said, oh, what if we introduce dual wielding as a mechanic into this game to, like, freshen it up? And that was a good idea. I love dual wielding. In Halo 2, it felt really cool to have that ability. It felt really powerful. And I think, like, you know, I'm not every game is a power fantasy, but I'd be, like, an absolute dipshit to say that playing as a fucking Spartan is not a power fantasy.
Oh yeah, no. Well, that's why, like, that's one of the reasons why people didn't like Halo Reach. Is because it wasn't a power fantasy.
Right, yeah.
It was like at every turn, you were cool, awesome Spartan man, but at every turn the Covenant were better. And because that was the whole point. That was the whole point of Reach.
Yeah.
Was setting up the fact that the Covenant are bad, and they're super powerful, and they glashed the whole planet. Like.
Well, and then you return to Halo 3, and you're like, fuck, man. Fucking 117 is a champ, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it makes those other games feel a lot more of a power fantasy, because, you know, there are other, like, whole teams of Spartans who can't do what Master Chief is doing, you know?
Yeah, and it really is. Oh, I believe Master Chief is one of the newer marks, and, like, Reach.
Doesn't he, like, exist at the end of Reach? He's, like, mentioned.
Yeah, because they hand Cortana off to the Pillar of Autumn.
Right.
Well, like, Master Chief... So, the newer Spartans are, like, military men put through a regiment and put into the sea. Sort of thing. Like, yeah. Whereas, I believe the people on Reach, as well as, like, Master Chief in particular, are orphans that they took in, and this is why they're called Spartans, took in, gave augmentations, put all their shit in when they were young, had them grow into it, gave them all these growth hormones, and then put them in the suits. So gotcha. They were pretty much Spartans. They're like, we're gonna take you from a young age and turn you into these super soldiers. And that's why Master Chief is one of the more, you look at the ones that they feature in like Halo 5 and Halo 4, and that's the reason why they're weaker than Master Chief, is because Master Chief was one of the last orphan soldiers. Because after that, they just started being military people.
Right, much more ethical, I would say.
You know, much more ethical. Let's not steal orphans. I actually don't even know if they're orphans, or if they were just, like, children they took from families. I don't know. And that lore comes from, like, the books.
Right.
The Halo books. So.
Well, and there's lore you need and lore you don't, right? Like, I'm cool with expanding your universe outside of your lore books and whatever else. Like, I'm not being an ass who's just like sitting here and going like, yeah, if all the lore's not in the game, then it's not fucking important, you know? Like,
Yeah.
that's not true of transmediated content. It'll never be true of transmediated content. That being said, what I do feel very distinctly about the Halo 1 specifically is that there's a lot of information that is really important for contextualizing the game and what's going on, that was added to external sources, and there are a lot of players who didn't get access to that or have a mode of accessing that because it just wasn't something that they were aware of, you know, and that feels a little bit, that makes Halo 1 a little bit worse off. I think I had all the information I needed to in Halo 2. Like, I don't think there was any point in time where I was like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on, I'm just doing it. And Halo, well, like there's certainly early missions in Halo 1 where it's not a problem because you're like, oh, okay, we're on a strange thing and we don't know what's going on. It's the later missions, especially once you get to the Flood, that really suffer from that lack of context.
And I think the Flood was definitely, the Flood was so weird because like the Flood exists and you have to fight the Flood, and then
we made it to the boss area now. We finally did it.
Oh, we did it. The Halo Combat Evolved kind of transitioned from we're running from the Covenant to we're fighting the Covenant on this ring into, from a large majority of the story, is Flood.
Yeah.
And now we have to escape the Flood, sort of thing, and destroy this ring. Because
Because now the Flood are on it, and they'll destroy the
now
entire universe if they're not
they've
careful.
opened, and I think in Combat Evolved, they do realize that the Covenant are trying to activate them, and that's why you blow up the Flood.
Right, yeah. I mean, like the actual story mostly makes sense.
But why? But like a lot of the questions of, well, why are we getting chased by the Covenant, and also why are the Flood here?
Yes.
You get a lot more of that in Halo 2. Halo 2's like, oh, we've learned why the Flood was on the ring, and all that kind of stuff. But then you also get thrown into the Arbiter storyline, which kind of just throws you for a loop. You're just like, oh, we've got Master Chief, and you're Master Chief. Oh, by the way, you're a Covenant now. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird addendum. I mean, the Arbiter story ends up paying off in a big way, especially in the third game. So, like, absolutely no problem with it in the end. But, like, when he's first introduced, you're like, and what?
And what? Oh, we're fighting heretics now? That was like the first mission. You fight heretics, and then the Flood happened, and you're like, wait, well, how could... Hold up. There's heretics in the Covenant. Oh, and then there's Brute. Like, the Covenant storyline is so, like, political.
Oh, yeah. Well, so is the basic one. It's so political, but like, the interesting thing about it is it's densely like political in a game series that is slotted into like the capital G gamers. This isn't political. It's just about shooting people, which is a funny sentence I just said. See what I did there? I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think Halo 2 has a lot of military politics. Whereas the Covenant storyline is just religious politics, because you're fighting, you have the Brutes and you have the Prophet.
Oh yeah.
And the Prophet are like, Brutes are the best thing ever, and then the Covenant, the elites are getting pushed out, and then you have a bunch of heretic elites. And now I'm just remembering the Halo 2 story. And I'm like, what was the Halo 2 story?
Do you want to play? We could play the Halo series on stream at some point. The Master Chief Collection is there. I'd love to fucking get into it again, because it is like a classic. Like, it's more than classic, you know?
Yeah, really kind of. Well, the original Combat Evolved kind of, I don't want to say redefined, but it kind of did redefine things.
It set the tone for every single FPS campaign to come after it for the better part of, really, it hasn't stopped. Really, I don't think I've played a FPS campaign that doesn't feel in some way like the people who made it played Halo in the better part of like the last 20 years. You know, even Titanfall 2, which is absolutely fantastic, has the pacing of a you know, what you'd expect from a Halo campaign. It has more like jumps and gimmicks, but like at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, and I think one of the, I don't know, like one of the like things for the, I don't know, yeah, I'd be down. I'd have to get the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, always the barrier with this stuff is spending money.
Yeah,
because
well,
we
like,
are grad students.
Because I have all 3 Halo games. No, sorry, all 5. The Trilogy, ODST, and Reach on their original hardware.
Right.
And I have the original hardware. I have an Xbox original. I have an 360. And
oh, you've got some
one.
Dukes? That's nice.
I have some of the original, like, when they made the Duke smaller.
Oh my god.
I have those original controllers. I have the blue controller that I used to play all of both Halo 1 and 2. And that was my controller. My brother had a white Mad Catz, and that was his
Oh boy, Mad Catz. Oh, my favorite company to talk about. My favorite game company to talk about, honestly.
I never even realized that it was like a bad controller. But that was his controller. He had the white Mad Catz, and I had the blue Xbox.
I mean, the Duke was not, like, a great design. It is fucking funny to talk about now, because it's like, whose hands were that goddamn big? See what I mean, by the way? Like, this area is just nasty without friends. I'm kind of glad I died here. That's just too many people for me to manage.
Too many.
With the traps and everything. Oh god, it's brutal.
And you have to kite back and forth and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the biggest problem I'm having right now, and this is why I'm grinding for the gun, is that like my gun, when I fire it, I have to stand in place. That is not the case for most firearms in this game. It is because it is a balancing feature, because the auto gun does so much damage because it puts out so many bullets. You know? So they balanced it out nicely, but it just means that like actually doing some of this stuff is really hard. Okay, hell yeah. So we got enough fire crystals so that I can actually do some leveling here. So I'll show you how the leveling system works here. So when I upgrade my weapons, I have a certain % chance for it to for things to go correctly. And I can also forge extra stuff by having enough fire crystals to do this. So I have 30% chance of success with 6 crystals, and as you get more crystals, you up the chance of success and also get extra enhancements as well as possible bonuses. I'm not actually going to do it because I want to get more crystals, but like, you know. Are you still there?
I am, indeed.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure the stream didn't die.
Oh, no.
You know, why don't we go ahead and end it here? We're over an hour anyhow.
Oh, yeah, we are. Definitely over an hour. When did you start, 6?
Yeah, we started at 6. Cool.
It's a coffee break. How long does it take you to drink coffee?
A really long time, apparently. Well, thank you guys
apparently.
in chat for joining us. I want to thank Turdy and and Willy Juan, who I assume is a Spanish speaker, and I appreciate that having them in chat. It's awesome. It's really, I don't think we get a lot of like non-English speakers in chat, so it's cool to see the community kind of expanding around this game, and maybe there are a lot of like, I don't know, maybe this game is really, really popular outside of the U.S.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It's it's kind of one of a blind spot that we have that I don't know if we can actually like resolve. Meaningfully resolve is. We don't know what's happening outside of the U.S.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, the problem is there's a big language barrier. I took Latin for 6 years. You know, I don't know. I couldn't like.
You'd be able to like bits and pieces of Spanish, right? Because Spanish is Latin, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I can understand the odd word or phrase, but like, yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time like. Knowing what else to say or how to engage with it. Look at all these. So I guess this is what the tokens are for. They're for oh cute. They're for little like painted helmets. That's really cool. See, like they did a good job with these. I like these. Look at that. Authentic spookit mask. It's a spooky boy. Paper. Oh, these are adorable. I love them. Oh, that's a really cool mask. Holy shit. Oh man. Maybe next year for Halloween, I'll actually play this damn game because that mask is awesome. Can I preview that? Oh, I totally can. Hell yeah, let me preview this. Look at that. That's so cool. That's a rad helmet.
Yeah.
What a good place to end on. We have found a rad helmet that I can't buy because I only have like two sour candies. Wow, so different helmets that lead to different like final. Oh, cool! Look at that. That's cool. This is like a good little event. They did a good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, thanks for joining us on this dive into this weird old game, and I guess maybe the generation of an interesting paper topic. Which I guess is the point of all this at the end. That's why we do our streams and research and stuff, is to reach out to the community and also to generate some cool ideas. So thanks. If you're watching the VOD or you're hanging out in chat still, we mainly do on this show, Coffee Break, variety stuff. So if you showed up for more Spiral Nights, sorry, I don't know if we're going to play this again. Obviously, if people like tweet at me, then I'm happy to play the games that people ask.
Or maybe you can just continue to play more Spiral Nights if you want to.
I could, but I am a slave to what the audience asks me to do these days. The tiny audience. Other than this is our only broadcast tonight, but tomorrow we have Lunch Zone from 12 to 1, which is another variety show. I think that's our only Wednesday content, but let me just plug that. And then if you enjoy me and Morgan and want to hear more from us, you can pop in for Monday's Fan Game Follies. Or you can pop in for Sundays, the Ludic Society, and if Morgan grabs Lunch Zone or Coffee Break, then that's also an option for you. Or if MMO Mondays comes back at some point, who knows? Maybe in the future.
I don't know if MMO Mondays are gonna come back.
Fair enough.
I can contemplate that.
Oh, and of course the D&D stream too. You're like on half the streams in this channel on and off, so you know.
Yeah.
I don't know where the D&D campaign is going to be at, but
no idea.
That's for later for us to figure out behind the scenes.
It might just become like a podcast slot.
Yes, podcasting, a thing that we are definitely maybe getting into. All right, well, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out, and have a great day. I'll have the free lo-fi thing kind of play us out. All right.